Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another Connect Duluth show. And we are happy that you're here with us tonight. It gives us an opportunity to keep you up to date on your questions and some of the things that are happening in Duluth. So thank you for being here. We record these and then we broadcast these after the show. So if you have to leave or if you missed something or you want to hear it again, it'll be available for you. All right, so tonight I have a couple of guests with me. As you can see to my right, I have Council Member Manfred Graeder. So nice to have you back.
Thank you.
You've done this before, haven't you?
No, that's my first time.
Okay. Well, happy to have you here. And then to Manfred's right, we have our Stormwater Program Manager, Josh Arnold. And we've asked Josh to join us tonight because we want you to understand the complexity of stormwater. That doesn't sound very exciting, does it, stormwater? But I want to say that it's a very important topic, so we will get to Josh in just a few minutes. I want to ask you to hang in here with us tonight, because if you do, we've got some prizes at the end. They're right here on the table. We've got a new Duluth fanny pack, and some playing cards, and a little miniature speaker, and a really nice glass that we're going to be giving away at the end of the show. So if you're here at the end, maybe you'll be lucky and win one of those. So, stormwater. Well, I want to open this up by telling you what I thought about stormwater when I became mayor 15 years ago. I thought it was just water that came down during the storm, and it was as simple as that. But I have learned how effective and how overwhelming and even problematic stormwater can be, and it's a very expensive problem. If you're headed on your way to work or to an appointment and you get to the end of your road and there's a sinkhole, that doesn't make you happy, does it? Probably that sinkhole was caused from failing infrastructure, which would possibly happen because of poor stormwater drainage. So what we have been trying to do is to pay attention and to look ahead and maybe prevent some of these things from happening. For the first few years that I was mayor, we did not have a stormwater fee, and we had some expensive surprises to happen to us, and we had to pay for those out of general funds. So we spent about a year with a consultant learning about stormwater and learning about municipalities that do charge a stormwater fee, and we decided in 2011 that we would adopt a stormwater fee for our Duluth citizens. And it's not a very expensive fee, but when you think about the magnitude and the sizes of the problems that we have been able to work on because we have a stormwater fee, it makes me proud as a citizen that I'm doing something to make sure that we're looking ahead and preventing some of these problems. In fact, we have other cities that are now following suit and that are looking at this very same thing of adopting a stormwater fee, so we can put money aside as a city to address these problems before they happen and maybe do some preventative maintenance. And that's what Josh is going to talk to us about tonight. He's going to help you understand what stormwater is and understand better some of the projects that we're working on and how we're being preventative, and a little bit of on everything about how our stormwater fees are spent. So Josh, thank you for coming here tonight.
Of course.
And we would like for you just to kind of explain what stormwater is. It's a little more complex than my version, I think, of a definition.
Okay, so I think the basic definition, if somebody asked me what stormwater was, I would just say it's rainwater and anything that falls from the sky with it, making its way into our storm system, which obviously isn't just rainwater by the time it makes its way into our system. There's sediment, there's oils, there's grease, there's fertilizers, anything that it touches to make its way into the drains. That just leads to my next point, which is what a stormwater system is. I mean, we see those, on our streets, which generally when you're on your street, you see catch basins or you see drop inlets.
Would that be like the places where some people have painted
Yes,
on
ma'am.
the tops? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And then the graded drains that you see in almost every parking lot anywhere, in America, those are graded drop inlets, and they're just making their way through the storm system as well. And those, they collect all the runoff and convey it into a discharge point, which will make its way into a retention, detention, stream, or even the Chattahoochee.
And I know some developments do not have detention ponds, so
Correct.
that even creates larger problems, doesn't it?
Absolutely. In our older neighborhoods, back then there was no like codes to define that these neighborhoods had to have these detention ponds. So their runoff just a lot of times makes its way to a lake or just directly to a stream. A lot of erosion going on in those neighborhoods.
We hear from citizens all along that talk about stormwater problems in their neighborhood, and it's so unfortunate that very often we can't get involved in some of those because it's actually on private property.
Yes, ma'am. For a long time, anything that was making its way from the right-of-way was the only thing that we, as a city, could take on responsibility of. So if it's running from a private neighbor or running from someone's backyard into a system and then making its way out to the right-of-way, we couldn't be responsible for that. But we've adopted some new codes to where we can now take on that responsibility. So we're opening up stormwater to investigate those problems.
Why do you feel like that would be our responsibility as a city to take those on?
I feel like probably for all of us, it's just the right thing to do. It's going to make its way through our system, and if it's not taken care of, it's going to cause problems downstream.
Yep, it's a bigger issue than we realize.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that we had mentioned we do have a stormwater fee.
Yes, ma'am.
So what are some of the things that the fees go towards? And we've accumulated quite a bit of money now, haven't we?
We have. And
we need every penny of it, don't we?
Oh, yes, ma'am. So just to break it down, it really covers 2 street sweeps. We were doing 1 street sweep a year, and then the citizens were crying out to the wrong word. We're asking for us to do it a second time in the year. So now we're doing 2 street sweeps a year, 1 in November, right after Thanksgiving, and then we're revisiting it in the spring around the end of March, early April. So that's an important thing to hit the entire city.
So why do we do that? Certainly, as a regular citizen, I see, okay, there's a lot of leaves and it looks ugly, and that's why I want to have street sweeping.
Yes,
have
sir.
a nice and clean street, but I believe
I thought
that's
it
not all
was an
about it.
aesthetic thing at first.
Not just that. Like we have such large leaf debris and limb debris. They make it into these structures, and then these structures are completely clogged, and it causes damming, which can cause flooding in the street. So it can become such a large problem if we didn't do this.
That brings me, you see from time to time driving through the city that there's landscaping people around just cutting the grass on the side of the road and just blowing all the clippings on the road. They will go away, right?
Yeah, they will not.
And I see that often, and I bet you do too. And now I want to run out and say, stop doing that.
Yes, ma'am. We are working really hard with code enforcement to try and tighten up on those type of violations. It's important for us, for code enforcement purposes, that citizens help us by reporting on these, and even if they can get pictures of these violations occurring or anything, or just report it to us on site, that we can get out there and try and make sure this doesn't happen anymore.
Josh, remember a few years ago when we actually put cameras inside some of our old pipes?
Yes, ma'am.
I was shocked. Would you talk about that for a few minutes and the value of that?
So when I first started working in stormwater in, I believe it was 2012, so I've been here pretty much the entire program. We would inspect things via flashlight. myself, and I'm not really sure how great my vision is, but I know I couldn't see very far down there.
So you would go into the ditch
I would
and get
crawl
on your
down the
knees.
structure, yes, ma'am. I would crawl down there and with my phone, with probably my iPhone 6 back then and a flashlight, I would take a picture, and then we would base that, the inspection off of my eyes. We realized we weren't really getting good data based off of that. So we made a few suggestions of, hey, why don't we try to do a neighborhood at a time? We will clean these out, which is hydrovac. So we'll go into a neighborhood, we'll clean out every pipe, and then we'll CCTV it. And then I spend numerous hours of my day watching these videos, and then I will grade them on a scale of 4. So.
So that's what you're doing now?
Yes, ma'am. So
Okay.
we're trying to knock out 6 to 7 neighborhoods a year currently.
Wow, that's a lot.
And over the last, I think, 4 years, we've almost gotten every neighborhood CCTV.
So what's the result? How do these pipes look? Are they in good condition, or?
Yeah.
I would say that most of them are in disarray. We have a lot of older neighborhoods, and in the 70s and 80s developments, they were putting in a cheaper corrugated metal and water ponds in those things, and they fail pretty quickly. Well, I guess it's not quickly now that we're in 2022, but they're in disarray. So now, like, we've implemented concrete pipes, which have a longer lifespan. So in the 2000s, we started putting those in, and things are way more successful.
I believe somebody told me these corrugated metal pipes will last 30 years, so it's not a problem, right? So we put them in 1990, now 30 years are over,
Right.
and these pipes are gone. So what options do we have to repair these pipes?
So our main thing right now is we want to be non-invasive. We don't want to rip up people's yards. We want to try and keep the public happy. So a big technology for us is lining these pipes. So we're going in. You're basically putting a sock liner in, and you pull it out, and it turns it basically into a concrete pipe. It's not concrete, but it turns it into that. And they're telling us it's a 70-year lifespan on those.
70?
Now, there
Okay.
are situations to where we can't line a pipe. It's in too disarray, it's failing, it's caved in, so we're replacing everything with concrete pipe. And
So it's important that we catch these problems early to have a chance to line them.
oh, absolutely. That's why this CCTV technology is so important, because I don't want to go in and tear up someone's yard that they've worked very hard on. So, yeah, absolutely. This has really been beneficial to our program.
When looking at new developments that are coming into Duluth,
Yes, ma'am.
what kind of requirements do you give new developers about stormwater?
I believe that we just as a city have implemented anything that runs under the right-of-way and from the right-of-way has to be concrete pipe. Now, there's other situations to where they'll allow some corrugated metal, but it's very frowned upon. So that's, and it is absolutely mandatory that these developments CCTV and give us the as-built and everything, so we can specifically know what's going on, like in this neighborhood, and then we will approve it before we give them their CO on the neighborhood.
Good.
So you mentioned before detention ponds, retention ponds. How many of these do we have in the city? And can you a little bit explain what the reason for them is and how they actually work?
So I believe we have, and we do not have them all accounted for because there are private and public, and oftentimes our code enforcement or one of our engineers will bring up to us, hey, we just found a detention pond on so-and-so's property, and so we're trying to make sure those all get added to the inventory. But I think last accounted for, there were over 250 detention ponds in the city. So every year in our 5 stormwater zones, we're trying to make sure that we're catching 20% inspection on all ponds. So, and then just basically, but the difference between detention and retention is these detention ponds are temporarily holding, and then it's just slowing the water down, and then it's making its way out, while a retention pond is holding it. There's a lot of these apartment neighborhoods or a park or something that turn these retention ponds into like a water fountain or something that's aesthetically pleasing.
Okay, so is that just a hole in the ground, or do you have a structure, these outlet things to
Absolutely.
let the water out, or is it just basically a wall and then it's flowing over at some point, or how does that work?
So there's an outfall, which would be a head wall, where everything from the neighborhood is making its way into the pond. And then there's an outlet control structure with some orifices and it just and these keyholes and stuff that make its way. There's heights for damming. It's very specific, but it will slowly seep its way out. But absolutely, every detention pond has an outlet control structure.
And if that's working properly, it also catches debris, some bottles, whatever is flowing in that area in the pond, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It is, when we inspect these, it is one of the main things that we have to send these reports out to the private detention ponds is you have litter in your detention pond. So it definitely serves as a temporary trash pit as well.
So what happens if you don't clean them out?
You could have catastrophic failure. You could have flooding downhill onto properties. There's a lot of bad things that could occur, but flooding would absolutely be the main thing. And just rotting and failure of structure, like it could be some major issues.
Yeah. And it's not only in that neighborhood, right? Because you're collecting the water from that neighborhood, but it flows down sometime or at the end to the Chattahoochee, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So if you don't control that water flow, then it will flood the next neighborhood downstream.
And that's the biggest thing, because in most situations, that detention pond is surrounded by the next neighborhood that's downhill. So it could absolutely destroy your neighbors.
What is the responsibility of HOAs when it comes to their detention ponds?
We would like for them to be in full compliance. We are working hard to educate and to be patient and assistful with these inspections. So we will do an inspection, and then we will send them a detailed report of how to come into compliance. And then I really like to put myself in their shoes. So I'll tell them, hey, this is what you can do to slowly get in compliance, and we hope for the next 5 years to the next inspection timeline that you're able to come into more compliance, because these things can be extremely expensive, sometimes in the six figures. So we want the citizens to know we want to work with them, but it'd be very beneficial if they could start.
So now for my home, if I have an air condition, they told me, hey, you need to do maintenance 2 times a year to extend the life of that air conditioner and reduce possible repair costs. So how does that work with these ponds? Does it make sense to maintain them? How often would you do that?
Absolutely. We actually, as a city, had to learn that the hard way. Our police department, it was actually probably my fault, but it was a lack of knowing where that they had a detention pond. The trees had overgrown so much that it actually just looked like the woods back there. But once we realized what that was, we spent a substantial amount of money to get it to come into compliance. And now, just like with our regional detention pond, we have a landscaping crew come in 4 times a year and make sure that they maintain it so it doesn't become overgrown to where we run into an issue again of having to spend major dollars on repairs.
Do you have a rough number what it costs to repair a retention pond, like we explained, in that really bad condition?
So just for our detention pond alone, behind the police department, it was $62,000 to come into compliance. Well, I've seen some smaller neighborhoods who have smaller detention ponds. It usually runs anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000.
So how much would we pay for the maintenance per year?
I would say probably around $2,000 a time on a larger pond. So it's just based on the size of your pond. So it could be, a $500 landscaping fee, or our largest pond, which is our regional detention pond, runs about $2,000 a cut, a clean.
So it's worth it, isn't it, to maintain it?
So, and I believe it certainly depends on the surrounding of that
Oh,
pond.
absolutely.
Do you have trees, a lot of debris falling in, trees growing in there, stuff like that,
If
right?
you take a hold of it early, though, you're never going to run into these catastrophic failures to where you're going to have to spend this kind of money. It is just like you said with your air conditioner. You just have to maintain it.
If you were on, in a development that had an HOA, what would you say to people that are living with an HOA? What would you advise them to do?
Well, first of all, I would try and educate them on what a detention pond is. and-
Maybe the HOA board?
Right. And basically go over everything we just went through. Like, we're trying to make sure that stormwater is conveyed properly, and we're also trying to make sure that you guys aren't hit with the burden of a huge responsibility here. So, and I think education's the most important thing, if I was talking to an HOA about detention ponds.
We are available to come out and meet with your HOA about any questions about the city. We would love that opportunity, so you can reach out to me or any of us, and we'll bring Josh along with us.
Absolutely.
And help educate you, because it is very important. Do we have any questions that came in, live questions about stormwater? We're good. Anything else you want to add, Josh?
I know we've had a few questions about our pollution prevention, and I just kind of wanted to talk about just briefly. I jotted down some notes because this is something that we're really, really trying to touch home with. So the street sweeping, on top of Alyssa and myself have really tried to. We've started this new thing, this public outreach where we're sending out bulk flyers to neighborhoods. We're mailing those out to try and educate people of like pollution prevention, what we talked about from the jump, where stormwater is going, how like blowing landscaping debris into your structures is an issue. Like, that's something that people just aren't aware of. So it's something that I was really passionate about this year.
But we haven't sent out this flyer to everybody in the city yet.
No, sir. It's a lot of work behind it, but it was something important to me. Like, as I've had neighborhoods where people stop me and ask a lot of questions, I thought that it was nice to start there, and then hopefully we can touch a couple of neighborhoods a year and build on from that. There's our stormwater murals, which are very beautiful, but that's something that we're using as an educational thing. We also do something called Paint a Drain campaign, where we go into neighborhoods and we'll put a stencil on a neighborhood just to basically tell them this leads to the Chattahoochee or this leads to rivers.
I
I've seen
believe
those.
we have just pictures up of these murals.
Okay.
Can you just tell us where they are?
We have one behind Dreamland, and we have our newest one is at the Chattahoochee Dog Park. And that's the city of Duluth working closely with DPAC, and that's led by Chris McGregor. And it's just a beautiful outreach program
And
for
that's
us.
our art commission, DPAC. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that's pretty much what I wanted to make sure we touched on.
Okay. Well, I know that I was asked to bring my dog tonight. So what does he have to do with the program? Am I going to go over now to Alyssa? Okay. Oh, you're coming over here? Okay, Alyssa Jahuli is our stormwater coordinator. So
Yes. So we have Graeder here. Thank you, Mayor Harris,
You're
for
welcome.
letting us borrow him and having his big screen debut. The city actually just launched a pet waste pledge, which is really an initiative to encourage responsible pet ownership and make the city even more pet friendly. So you might be thinking, what does that have to do with stormwater? So pet waste is actually one of the most common stormwater pollutants. So if you think about it, you've got bacteria in pet waste, you have pathogens, diseases, and lots of nutrients. And nutrients can be a good thing, but there is such thing as too much of a good thing when it comes to nutrients. And again, so if you think that all this waste is being left on the ground, it rains, where does it go? It goes into our storm drains, and then into places like the Chattahoochee River, which we swim in, we recreate in. I believe it's actually a drinking water source. So, all these things, we want to keep those pollutants out of the Chattahoochee and all of our other streams and rivers. So
I'm going to come over there.
sure.
So,
I can tell you a little bit about the Pet Waste Pledge that we just started. It's
Okay.
on our website.
All right.
And basically, you can log on to our website and answer a few questions, basically pledging to be a responsible pet owner, picking up after your pet all the time in public and at home. And there is actually an opportunity to have your dog featured as Duluth Dog of the Month. If
Like
you
this?
like Graeder, he's Dog of the Year. So we're going to see if
Okay.
Graeder is going to pledge.
Okay.
Make the pledge.
okay. So, really, I'm making the pledge,
Exactly.
right? I had no idea that pet waste was not biodegradable. I really thought it would just
It takes a long time.
fertilize the
It takes a
soil.
long time. In fact, pet waste is a terrible fertilizer for your yard. Terrible.
See, and I did not know that. So you're asking us if we want to take the pet waste pledge?
Yep.
All right, so we have to raise our hand, right? All right, Radar, if you want to take the pet waste pledge, please bark. No? All right, well, I promise to take it.
Excellent.
So thank you for having us. Thank you for not cooperating. All right.
He's a little camera shy. I also did just want to mention real quick that the city just installed 6 new pet waste stations on the town green. And just really making it easier and more convenient for pet owners that are enjoying downtown to clean up after their pets.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great addition.
Sure.
So one question,
Yeah.
where do you find that pledge location on our website?
So-
Because I actually had to look to find that.
I think we'll have it up on the screen here. It's if you go under community, I think you can just scroll down to the Pet Waste Pledge, and it'll bring you to a map of all of the pet waste stations, some facts about stormwater pollutants and pet waste, lots of information about things to do with your dog in Duluth, and then you can take the pledge from there and upload a photo of your dog. And we've also partnered with Tiger Tails Animal Hospital for the Duluth Dog of the Month I think there's going to be a prize involved for whatever dog is selected as Duluth Dog of the Month. So we're really excited.
Cool. A great idea.
So just to reiterate, it's on our city website, duluthgeorgia.net, and there's a community tab. If you click on that, then you will get a lot of text, and somewhere in there is the Pet Waste Pledge campaign.
We're really
Click on
excited to
that
look at
and get
pictures
all
of dogs.
that, and I believe we can improve on that and maybe add it a little bit more prominent directly on the homepage.
Easier to find.
Yep.
Okay. Well, listen, Josh, thank you both
Thank
for
you.
being here
Thank you.
tonight.
Of course.
Again, if you want to know more and you feel like your neighborhood would benefit from having Josh come out and talk, I'm going to go ahead and commit him to that because I know he's passionate about this. He and Alyssa both. We want to make things better for our citizens. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And if it's an HOA or if it's a neighborhood with a non-existing HOA or a defunct HOA, just contact us, and we're certainly willing to help out, talk, explain, and see what needs to be done, or if everything in perfect condition. Because I know out of personal experience, you might be in a neighborhood, you don't even know there's a detention pond.
Oh, I bet. Mm-hmm.
And, but be assured there's probably one.
Right.
And
Thank
if you don't
you.
know about it, it's probably not in the best condition.
Okay, we're going to shift
Thank you.
off of stormwater, and we're going to focus for a few minutes on a really large body of water, the Chattahoochee River. We have a video that will come up and show you the thrush the truss that has been put into place, and you're going to think it looks like the old bridge, and that's great. We were not able to save the old bridge, so we wanted our new bridge to be historic in the story. So this video will be on now.
All these things. We're working on a new restroom facility also for the park,
Yes,
and public art.
and you might want to put the photo of the public art up at the time that will be going down at Rogers Bridge. That's on your screen now.
So that piece of art actually contains parts of the old bridge. That was one of the things we asked for, to use parts of the old bridge that wasn't salvageable, but at least he wanted to have at least some of these metal pipes or metal rods and create some art. That thing will come up. It's pretty big.
It is. We had a contest for this and actually chose Phil Proctor, which is a local artist,
Yep.
to sculpt this.
Yep. I don't know what the actual size was, about 15 to 20 feet or so.
I'm not sure.
So it will be pretty big, and we will have pieces of the original bridge used there, and I'm really eager to see that, because the picture probably doesn't really show what it will look at the end, but it will be great.
All right, we're going to answer some questions that you sent in, and the first one is, when will weddings be allowed at the courthouse again? And I think you probably mean the city hall, because we hold our court over at the Public Safety Building. But I don't think we had weddings in the city hall. What you might be talking about is on the town green. And we do not have plans to start weddings again on the town green, because it is such an active town green. You have to book weddings months in advance, and we were not able to coordinate our event schedules and hold a place reserved for a wedding. So we do not plan to bring weddings back there to the town green or to the festival center. All right, the next question we had was, what are some things that are happening outside of the downtown? And we had so many items that we could list for you that we have actually made a list. So that's going to be scrolling on your screen now. Some of the projects that are going on outside the downtown. One thing that we're very, very proud of is we are adding landscaping to the medians on Peachtree Industrial Boulevard.
Yep. I believe that should be complete right now, at least along PIB. I haven't seen it on Sugarloaf, but might be complete now also. And certainly, we hope and expect that a lot of these bushes will grow. So be patient. It will look better in a year or two. And it looks already great, in my opinion.
Well, I have concerns because the planning of those medians were taking place the week that we had temperatures of 100 degrees. There are water trucks that come through there. Maybe you've had a chance to see that. It's kind of interesting to watch. But there are some plants that have died. So I wanted you to know we have a 1-year warranty on the plant. So I have a feeling we will be replacing some.
Yeah.
But like you said, in a few years, it really is going to be very attractive.
Yeah. The company that installed that landscaping actually told us, be patient now. There's also some areas where we will have wildflowers and all that. With the new plants and sod installed, there might be some weeds growing for the next year or so, since they certainly don't want to use some chemicals to basically kill whatever's in there. But at the end, it will be really beautiful.
I know that you mentioned just a minute ago, one thing that's happening outside of the downtown is the Rogers Bridge construction. There's the park coming up in the restroom.
Yep.
When will that start? Do you know? I think it's fall.
Yep.
Okay.
So if I remember correctly, the goal was to have it completed with the bridge, at least the restroom. There will be a lot
Sure.
more improvement to the park, the parking lot, some additional trails. That will come later, but the restroom building should be completed with the bridge. That was my understanding.
And we do have a big vision for Rogers Bridge Park, but it's going to take several years
Yeah.
to get that implemented. Of course,
Yeah.
it's a matter of money, so we just have to do everything in phases.
And certainly, it's a project together with Gwinnett County, Fulton County, and Johns Creek. And the moment the bridge is open, we can cross over into a huge, brand-new park in Johns Creek. They have already the 5K pass opened up or completed. There will be a lot of additional things coming soon.
We are. We're
They
looking
spend also
forward to that.
a lot of money.
So we'll be sharing our park, and they'll be sharing their park with us.
Yep. So that will be great to have that opportunity to walk over the Chattahoochee and have activities on both sides, be outside, the dog park on our side.
In just a minute, Manfred's going to elaborate a little bit more, but also happening outside of the downtown is the Western Gwinnett Bikeway. It is now being expanded, and you can see that work taking place if you drive up towards Swanee, and I'll let you elaborate on that in just a few minutes. We have a new traffic signal at Encore on PIB. We have a lot of code enforcement improvements, and I hope you are noticing that we're raising our standards, and we have high expectations for residential property and commercial property. We want to thank some private developments for some funds that they've put into their own places, like on Peachtree Industrial, the Hooch Beverage, and the Shell gas station have all really stepped up and added some nice improvements. One question that we're getting a lot of information or questions about is we're clearing the property at Brock Road and Buford Highway, and I think we do have a visual for that. That's on the screen now. And that is a question that actually comes up in a few minutes, so we'll elaborate on that in just a minute. So that is the list of all the things that are going on outside of the downtown.
We have also that development, the car wash on Rogers Bridge, Old Norcross, Buford Highway on that intersection. That was one of the questions we get a lot, what's happening there. The car wash finally has opened, and I believe it's great.
And the self-storage is being built.
And the big building that's coming up behind that, it's a self-storage, couple stories, 3 stories, I believe. Should be nice when it's completed. But certainly, it's a lot of construction that needs to be completed.
Okay. Next question.
I believe we had a question already on the timetable for the
Okay, you want to go to
Western
that one?
Gwinnett Bikeway, since we mentioned it.
Okay.
You have seen the construction started finally to connect Duluth with Swanee. And they started clearing, cutting out the trees and all that. And what we hear is that the plan is to complete that until fall 2023. So it's another 18 months out, or 15, 18 months out, until it's finally completed. Certainly a lot of work to do. That's a county project, so you're certainly involved, but the county controls that. And let's see. Let's hope they can speed up the process, get all the resources and tools
looking
and whatever
forward to
need,
that.
and that should be great. And at the end, we will really have that connection from Swanee down to Norcos, I believe, is already built out.
So, you know,
Agree.
one of our questions in here, and I'll just jump to that since we're on the topic, is what can we do about adding more bike lanes and more pedestrian places for people? So I know you were going to elaborate on that for us.
These questions coming up, I actually had a discussion with an interested young citizen 2 weeks ago about more bike lanes, biking, walking in Duluth. And we're working on a lot of these things. You see these, the Western Gwinnett Bikeway that will be along PIB. We added a connection of that pass down to Rogers Bridge already. We will get our Main Street pass, multi-use pass, that will connect from PIB down to Town Green along Main Street. That's 2 sections. Phase 1 is from PIB, the Lidl development, or where Lidl is, coming down up to Rogers Bridge. That actually is already out on advertised and on bidding. So we expect that building starts in a couple of months and should be completed also in around 18 months, so end of next year. That's phase 1. That will include an additional piece of path or sidewalk to Riverbrook, the first entrance, including the first property to connect to the sidewalks inside Riverbrook. And then there's phase 2 from Rogers Bridge down to Brook Road.
Brock.
We are still working on all the fine details, what's needed to be done, and we hope that we can start working on that also next year, maybe April. But there's a lot of factors, and with supply issues at the moment, don't really quote me on that. We're working on that. We will have it done at some point, but it might take longer than expected. But also that work should start, hopefully soon.
I'm looking
And
forward to
then we
that.
get really a big pass connection from Town Green up to that PIB connection down, and then the Western Gwinnett Bikeway connection to Rogers Bridge. You can then go really along PIB to the other side of town, North Berkeley.
So it's not just about biking, but it's also going to be walkable.
Yeah, that's a multi-use pass, 10 feet wide. So now certainly that's only these big main trails, but that's the first step to complete them. And then certainly if you look at connecting neighborhoods in Duluth, existing neighborhoods, adding these bike paths, it's not that easy, it's problematic. You need a lot of space. You need a lot of property that you need to buy from all the property owners for that. And it's difficult. But we need, or we analyze, certainly have a look on that. We have a master plan for our sidewalks. We're working on that. We will always look at what's possible also to add bike lanes. Where is it really helpful, needed? where's the traffic that bad that we really need to add the bike path, or is it safe to ride your bicycle on the road? What we do look at all the time is how can we connect neighborhoods. I just bring that up right now. We have a comprehensive plan, Forward Duluth. That's our comprehensive plan for the city up to 2040. And there's a lot of information on there on what is the vision of the city for all these neighborhoods, developments, where do you get high density, low density, single family, townhomes, all these things. And there's also a big chapter in there about connectivity, sidewalks, where do we see options to connect neighborhoods. We just, a couple of years ago, the city connected Town Green to Willbrook by buying that one property and basically building that small throughput, that small pocket park. So now you don't need to walk around. It saves you a mile or a mile and a half just walking through, and a lot of people actually use that. And we're thinking about a couple other options in the city where that might be possible. Certainly, timing needs to be right. Must be property available to buy, to build something like that. And the money needs to be available, certainly.
That's right.
So please, if you have the option or the possibility, go to our website. It's, I believe, on the Planning and Development tab. And there should be somewhere a link to our Forward Duluth Comprehensive Plan 2040. And download it. It's a big book. There's a lot of pictures in there. It's pretty interesting to read, easy to read.
It's very
And
good.
saying that, we are up to update that comprehensive plan in 2024. So we will start working on that next year. There will be open houses again, possibilities to contribute comments, ideas, and we're looking forward to hear all that.
He's looking forward to that. Yes. No, I am too.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Let's-
We skipped the introduction a little bit in the beginning. So I'm a newly elected councilman in office since December, but I was before 4.5 years in the Planning Commission. So I worked actually also on that plan here a couple of years ago. And it's really interesting.
It is
and
very good. It's
It's
our
a good
guide.
opportunity to shape the future of the city, to give guidance, because certainly as elected officials, we cannot exist in a vacuum. We need to get the feedback. We need to get the ideas, and
Well, let's see what our next question is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sent to us in advance with some concern about some graffiti in downtown Duluth, and the police department, as you can imagine, are on top of that. In fact, because of our video cameras, they have been able to identify some of the people that might be causing these problems. So it is an ongoing investigation. The graffiti has diminished that they realize that the police are watching them. We would urge you to contact the police department if you have any tips, any information that could help us. crimetip@duluthpd.com is another way you can do that. Okay, we've talked about the Buford Highway and the Brock clearing. Is there anything you wanted to add?
yeah, we showed a picture. I believe that picture that we had is still that blue grass on there, so that's looking green now. It's a little bit different. So that property belongs to the city of Duluth. At some point, city bought a couple of parcels to be able to control the development that will happen there. But unfortunately, we had a lot of trees, a lot of old trees all there, a lot of underbrush. It didn't really look that well, and there was always a danger of trees coming down. So a decision was made to clean that area out, to have it in a safe way, and certainly also in a presentable way for future developers and also for our citizens to see what it really is.
It is
Because
not going to be apartments.
it's not going to be apartments. Again, Forward Duluth, if you look into the plans, that's for mixed use office, commercial, mixed things, whatever. And I understand we had some requests and some plans shown that really didn't fit our vision of the city, but that's the reason why the city actually acquired that land to have control of what will be built there. So for now, we cleared it out, put the seed out, and then a big heat wave came and the drought, so it's not looking that nice from the grass perspective right now, but certainly it will grow, and then we see. So it's not really that we know already we've sold it or there's a development already planned. So it's just basically a safety thing and a beauty thing to clean that out, have it in a better condition, and let's see what happens now.
Okay, a couple of people have written in and asked about the construction in downtown Duluth in front of the stage, and they wanted to know if that was a restaurant and what kind of restaurant it is. So I think we can announce now that it is going to be LR Burger. They are also the owner of Local Republic in Lawrenceville, so same owner. We're very excited. It's going to have a big, huge rooftop. This will probably be spring before we are able to even predict when this might open.
Yeah, I've just got the notification this morning from Marchi that at the moment it looks like that at least for the Taylor Park, that's the grass area that's fenced in at the moment, we're still on plan for hopefully end of August to have that completed. So that area should be available for the Fall Festival.
Yeah, that was our next question. The Fall Festival, the leaders of that this year, Mary Buck and Steve Lynn, have been coming in once a month to meet with Chris McGahee. The construction will still be there during the Fall Festival, but they are working around it. They are replanning where the vendors will go. So the Fall Festival will look a little different, but it's still happening.
Yep.
Last weekend in September.
So as already said, the grass area should be finished then. There will be seating at some point and lighting. That will take a while because also supply issues, but at least that area will be available. It will be not really that sloped anymore, more steps. So
We're
it's
adding
easier to
another layer.
access, and so that should be pretty nice and should be ready. End of August was the latest we had. Let's hope it stays that way. The paver lot itself, that's where the building is, or coming up at the moment, that's still on for late October. It's the current plan. So let's say end of the year.
So I had someone ask me yesterday, will we be putting parking back there? And we will not be putting parking back there. There were only 23 spaces in that spot. So there'll be the restaurant and then there'll be an activity center. And as we build the space for the activity center, we are adding the necessary pipework that we need to have a ice skating rink for the winter. So that's what that area will look like. We're excited about that. Okay. One of the questions that we got in advance, Manfred, is the Juneteenth festival or festivities for 2023. Are we going to be planning anything for that?
I'm actually glad that the question came up, because that's certainly, I believe, from my perspective, something we need to look into or should look into. But say that right now. That's a decision of the City Council, and I'm only one member of the City Council. So we will discuss that within the City Council and with staff, what can be done, what's an option to do that, some kind of festivity, if it's on exactly that day or the weekend before. We need to discuss that, figure it out. This year, first step, we declared Juneteenth as a city holiday. And I really support that idea that we have an event starting up next year.
Okay, one question that came in, I think we have time for about 2 more questions. What is the status of the silent railroad crossing?
The status of the silent railroad crossing, it's not one silent railroad crossing.
It's 3.
It's 3 railroad crossings. That will be the new one on Davenport that's supposed to be built soon, the one on 120 and Brock Road. They all need to be modified. New safety mechanisms, sidewalks that basically are blocked off, that people not just come run into the tracks because there will be a silent zone, no horn blown, if possible. Certainly, if there's
Yeah.
a danger inside, they will still blow it.
So
but,
as far as the timeline, I do not know the timeline right now.
Timeline, yeah, that's
It's-
up to the railroad at
it
that
is.
point. From city perspective, we have signed the contracts with the railroad. So the railroad can start with the planning and implementing all that. I've just learned this morning also, Davenport Road extension finally is advertised. It's out for bids, so that we hope we receive some bids for that project until end of August, and then start building on that one,
And adding
End
that
of the year.
traffic signal.
adding that traffic signal, adding Davenport extension, and that's certainly all that what plays together with these silent zones, because that's that new railroad crossing, and that's important for that. The old crossing on, what is it, Peachtree Road or whatever they call it, that angled road behind Tourist Bank, that will go away completely. So there will be no railroad crossing there anymore, and even the road will go away. That basically Hardy Street will end at the library parking lot.
Okay, I had one citizen write in, and we hear this every time, complaining about the traffic in Duluth. And as we've said many times, you really can't fix traffic within a city. It is a regional issue. Unfortunately, the referendum failed last time as far as public transit coming to Gwinnett. So for right now, we do not have any ways to correct the traffic except just keep on keeping our streets modified and clean and safe. As far as a streetcar or a bus that could come around the city of Duluth, I think that's more of a financial commitment at this time that we are just not able to make, because that would be expensive. So I don't see that, a streetcar happening anytime soon.
So we might ask that question and see if we get feedback who would be willing to use that and how often. But the problem is having a small local bus route or a small bus driving around in a circle collecting people is it's difficult also, because until you do a round that's minimum 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Do you run one bus, multiple bus? When do you do that? And how do you basically call that bus, or do you put up stations? It's certainly something to brainstorm about.
But for now,
But
It's not in-
I believe we have these discussions every couple of years. It pops up, and at some point, hopefully, we find a solution. Public transportation said there was also here, forward Duluth again, there's a section in there. There was the big plan from the county to add rapid bus lines, additional bus lines and bus stops. That all was connected to the transit referendum in 2020, I believe. That failed.
I don't remember the year.
So now it's certainly up to
Wow.
build something or come up with a new plan. And what I hear, the county is working on something slowly, something a little bit smaller maybe. And I think one of our tasks as city leaders is really to keep in contact with the county and add our input and make sure that we are included on whatever is planned there. And from my personal view, again, public transportation is important, and it's something that's missing in Duluth at the moment. But it's also something that cannot be done by the city of Duluth alone. That's something that we need the county, maybe the state, to connect all these things, because you cannot only have public transportation locally in the city, you need to connect to somewhere.
Right, it's a regional.
And certainly it's important,
Issue.
it would be important to have a good connection down to Doraville Mother Station. or to the Mall of Georgia, Gwinnett Mall, Discovery Mall, or whatever the name now is. We don't have it now. We need to work on that, but it's a long-term process, and I'm pretty sure there will be a referendum again at some point, and just make sure, vote for it. Without
All
the
right, we're
proper
going to end our
funding,
show.
without the proper funding, we cannot do it.
It's all about money, isn't it?
Yep.
All right, we have a winner tonight, and this person has won all of these things, not my purple water bottle, but that would be a great prize. But Lacey Landon, you have won all of this great stuff, and you can come by the City Hall during business hours, and we will give you your great prize. So thank you for joining in. Thank you for sending us the questions a few days in advance. It allows us to bring in the visuals and to get the timelines and dates and cost of things ready for you. It helps us have a better show. Manfred, thank you for being here.
Yep, thank you for having me.
Manfred, as you can see, is very knowledgeable. He's such a qualified city council member. Having served on the Planning Commission for so long, he brings great knowledge and experience to our council. So I've really enjoyed having you.
Yep.
So glad you're here.
Let me add one comment here. Certainly, we asked for questions up front for that Duluth Connect meeting here. And I believe if there's a need for maybe doing a town hall meeting, talking about some of these bigger topics, let us know. Just send in these requests, and if we have enough interest to set up something like that, we're certainly willing to do that.
And this is the virtual town hall meeting, so
Yep.
we could give that option as well.
Certainly. But we always limit it on time, right, if you stream it online. So, but depending on COVID situation and all that, but I'm pretty sure we should be able to set something up again in the community room, just have open discussion.
Good. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.